right, folks, game on. Regular season week 1 in the books. Stratford Warriors have not played yet. We start tomorrow night, but it's so good to have GOJHL hockey back. It's been a while. Things are happening. We had some great games over the past couple days. It's the Wild Wild West is the Wild Wild West. We'll talk about the standings. Who's who is at the top, and the other guys are sort of falling in, and who's going to be a surprise. We'll talk a little bit about the Eastern Conference. Just to let you know, folks, I have one eye on the ball game. Now, I wrote the Jays off in May, so I will exit the fan bus at any time if you want me to. I didn't expect them to be where they were, so I got one eye on the ball game, and then I'm going to introduce my guest. First tonight, joining us from St. Mary's, he's on the board of directors and a volunteer with the St. Mary's Lincolns, Mr. Geoff Goldsack. Jeff, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. It's good to see you. Things started well there in St. Mary's so far this year.
Yes, it's been it's pretty good. 2-0.
That's right. And our other guest, everybody knows this man. They've heard him. I bet you've heard him if you listened to any of the GOJHL hockey games or anything. 519 play-by-play man. Kamoka Kings play-by-play man, and there's something else in the works, but he hasn't given it up yet. Dylan Baker is going to join us tonight as well.
Dylan, Les, thanks so much for having me on.
All
right. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Nope.
Good, thank you.
Like I said, I got one eye on this ball game, and they're up 4-0 now. So hey, I wrote them off. But all right, here we are. The season is underway finally. Some great games last week. You got the who's who at the top right now. I had a guy text message me. He goes, "Why are the Warriors in last?" And I said, "Well, we haven't played a game yet." But we're going to get started tomorrow night when we travel into London. The new look London Nationals, if they have the jerseys with them. That was a sore spot there in LaSalle for their game 1. All right.
Yeah.
Dylan, what are your thoughts on that?
You know what? I think it's exciting to see the rebrand in London. I think it's going to be a fun new look for them. I've never seen the London Nationals in red. They've never been a red team in my time in the league or in my brain at any point. So I'm excited to see how they look. Unfortunately, they couldn't have them last week, but I'm hopeful that they can have them this Wednesday, because I think it would be really awesome to see those unveiled in front of what I'm sure will be a good crowd in London tomorrow night.
Yeah, it should be a good crowd. Jeff, we talked about that on game night in LaSalle, trying to figure out in warm-ups they were wearing the LaSalle jerseys, their practice jerseys.
That was quite a shock. Yep.
Jeff, you watch a lot of hockey, not just GOJHL, but you watch some PJHL, a little bit of the OJHL. And Dylan, I know you watch a ton of hockey. You're involved in hockey. The first thing I want to ask you guys about is last week the OHL made the announcement that the GOJHL is now their development league. Your thoughts on that, Jeff?
No, I think it's a good stepping stone. I mean, there's a lot of players that come out of this Junior B league that go on and play in the O and eventually into the NHL. So it's yes, it's nice to have that step up and that backing by such a highly regarded league as the OHL.
And Dylan, what did you think about the announcement? I know it's been hush-hush in the background for a while. Everybody thought it was coming, but just didn't know when.
Yeah, you know what? I think this is a great move for the GOJHL. I think it's huge for the league because it really provides a clear pathway through our great league to a higher level, right? It says this is the official development league for the Ontario Hockey League. If you are an Ontario Hockey League prospect, this is the place to be, right? And I've thought that this is the place to be if you're an Ontario Hockey League prospect for a number of years. I'm sure the two of you have thought the same, but now it's out there, it's public, and it's front facing for all the players and for the agents and the advisors to see, hey, if you want to have a shot at getting into the OHL, the GOJHL is a great place to develop. It's great hockey. And the other thing that it'll do is it'll draw in more fans, right? Some Ontario Hockey League fans might say, hey, well, this is our development league now. Let's go check this out, right? I live in, let's say, Guelph. Well, Cambridge isn't too far. Waterloo's not too far. Ayer's not too far. Why not go make a trip to a game, see some of these prospects in action? So I think it really opens the door to more fan engagement and certainly establishes the league in the eyes of players and advisors as a premier development option to get to the Ontario Hockey League.
Yeah, I haven't read the full statement on it. to see what the things are like. Are OHL teams going to be able to place players with certain teams? If you had a 16-year-old, do you lose a 16-year-old spot? I know that's one of the talks everybody was talking about. If the OHL says, well, we want this kid on your team, are you going to get an extra 16-year-old spot? But we'll have to see what comes of that.
I don't know if if those details have been made public or if they ever will be. I think we may just kind of find out by looking at it, but I think that there's a lot of good that will come out of this for the GOJHL.
Yeah. All right. Enough of that. Let's get right into the season. Well, before we get into the season, this summer, there was a lot of movement in the GOJHL. I'm talking from every single team. Stratford, we weren't immune to it, but we fared off better than we have the last 2 seasons. We have a lot of returning players, and the last time we had this returning players was a Cherry Cup year. But there was a lot of movement between the GOJHL and the PGHL this year. Geoff.
Yes, it was a quite interesting watch. Players that you think would, stay around up here, but you look at even some of the players that are aged out here that chose to go down to the PJ, and that's exciting to watch. I mean, there's a couple of players from the St. Mary's that are playing in Aylmer, and it's nice to see. It's hard to gauge what the teams will be like this year with those moves, because it's so early. I mean, I think is Ayr the only team that's played 3 games so far? I'm not too sure. So, I mean, almost everybody has 2 games under their belts, and it will see. I mean, everybody has really grasped at getting the best players they can get. There's some young teams out there, but all in all, I think it's going to be very competitive with this going on.
And Dylan, your thoughts on the summer?
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, it's the reality of the new landscape in junior hockey in Ontario, right? I mean, it's free movement for the players. It opens up a lot of possibilities for them, a lot of doors. But yeah, the competition to retain players is certainly going to be heightened with these changes, and I think we saw that this year. Players have a lot of options out there for them, and a lot of them decided to make the jump to the PJHL. A lot of them came into the GOJHL, right? I saw an article on the GOJHL website that 47% of the league this year is rookies. So that's a lot of first-year players coming into the GOJHL this year. So not only did it provide opportunities for players to go play in the PJHL, but it also opened up a lot of doors for players to play in the GOJHL. And it's something that is just something we're going to have to adapt to, right? That's just the reality of the landscape in Ontario right now.
Yeah, it makes the job of the GMs a lot more important because the scouts. Like I know Brady Blaine for Stratford and Nick Parr and all that, and Jason Clark and all that. They did a lot of work this summer, even at the summer skates and all that, bringing in kids, younger kids, having a look at them, figuring out where they're going to go, how can they use them, trying to entice some veterans too. And it's interesting because we were able to retain quite a few players. Like we have 9 rookies this year compared to 14 we had last year. It's actually going to be 8 rookies as one side of the deal's been announced. We have a young man from he played U16 AAA with the Dallas Stars organization down there in that league, and 2 of his line mates are drafted to the NHL. Lucas Menard's come up to Stratford, and he'll be in the opening day lineup for the Warriors. But all the movement, I've noticed one thing. You looked at some teams and you thought, oh my gosh, that team just got obliterated with all the movement. But then their GM was able to work it and get a good solid squad. And one of the teams I think of is the Elmira Sugar Kings, who really got decimated in the summer, but now they look like they have a decent team there, and bringing in a 20-year-old goaltender also helps. Geoff.
Yeah, it's pretty solid up there. St. Mary's made a couple trades with Elmira. They've really stepped up. And watching some of those games, I mean, they've played both games against Listowel, but yeah, they really control the game on the ice. They control the flow. It's quite different than watching, some of the games we watched last year. So yeah, it's exciting. It's very entertaining hockey.
Yeah, Director of Hockey Operations in Stratford, Jason Clark, dubbed the West the Wild Wild West. And I think it's going to be a 50-game grind again this year, Dylan.
I'm with you 100%, Les. I think that there are a lot of really good teams in the Western Conference this year, and I think that trying to figure out who the 8 will be that make the playoffs has never been harder. And I know it's only the second year of this version of the Western Conference, but I think you can really make a case for 10, maybe 11, maybe even all 12 of these teams to make the playoffs in the Western Conference. So I'm really excited to see what shakes out in the West, because I think it's a really strong conference. You mentioned Elmira. You guys touched on it there. I'm very high on the Sugar Kings this year. I think they're going to be a very good team. And you mentioned it, Les, like they looked like they were decimated by guys leaving to Junior C, and they had so much talent. You think of Joey Martin last year, who led the league in scoring. Now he's in the PJHL. But one of the things that they've done is the Sugar Kings have realized, hey, this is just the landscape. So it's adapt or don't and fail, right? And what Elmira has done, or appears to have done this offseason, is they've adapted. And they have a really solid team, and it looks like they're going to be a contender in the GOJHL's Western Conference.
Yeah. We're probably mostly going to talk about the West, because that is the conference that we know. It's the elephant. The elephant in the room is the Eastern Conference. Let's get the Eastern Conference out of the way while we have the chance, because there's not a lot happened in the Eastern Conference the same, and it looks like the who's who of the Eastern Conference. You got Ayr coming off a strong start to the season. They're 2-0. Cambridge Redhawks with new coach Todd Bertuzzi. They brought in a lot of kids. They brought in Della Croce's younger brother to play in there, and he's been phenomenal already to start this season. Dylan.
Yeah, you know what? I think that it's going to be interesting in the Eastern Conference. I'm really high on the Cambridge Redhawks as well. I think that's going to be a team that is one to watch for this year. I think that Todd Bertuzzi as coach, he adds that kind of NHL experience, right? And there have been times in the league where maybe a former NHLer comes in and it doesn't look quite as good as maybe you would expect it to. But I really feel that the intensity and the passion that Bertuzzi brings will benefit Cambridge this year. They have a lot of returning faces. You talked about Stratford and how many guys they have back. I think really the core nucleus for Cambridge is returning this year, and I think that they are going to be a very potent squad. And Bertuzzi demands a lot of attention to detail, right? The players have to be obsequious with their attention to detail for the Redhawks, because they know that these are high-level systems and high-level concepts that Bertuzzi is implementing this year, and I think that they're going to be a really fun team to watch.
Another team in the West that's probably going to be there at the end. St. Catharines had a lot of moves this year as well. They look solid though on the back end again. Up front, a lot of new players, but I think they're going to be solid. They'll be one of the top contenders. Fort Erie's going to be in there. They always are every year. But then you have a team like Pelham that just doesn't look like they were able to improve that much over the summer, Geoff.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I think having some of these crossover games that we have coming up, like, for instance, St. Mary's just played Caledonia. We've got going up to St. Catharines very shortly. So, yeah, and it kind of gives you an idea of, I don't know, maybe again it's because of what's happened with the player moves up and down, but I think, yeah, you're going to have, 5 or 6 that'll stand out on top over there versus, you'll see more of the 10 or 11 teams, probably the bottom teams fighting to stay in for playoffs in our end. But you're going to see quite a show going on over there just to have that battle between, maybe 6, 7, 8, and 9th spot over on that side.
Like, Dylan, do you think we could end up with the same scenario we had last year in the Eastern Conference, where you had 3 top teams all tied with the same record, the same amount of points?
I think that it's a possibility, for sure. I think it's a possibility. I think that the East is a good conference. I do believe that. I think that maybe it's a little more top heavy than the West is. I think that the West might be a little bit more spread out. But I think that, one of the most exciting battles we saw at the end of last year was Pelham, Brantford, and Hamilton duking it out for the 7, 8, and 9 spots in the Eastern Conference, right? We talked about the top of that conference, where it was St. Catharines, Fort Erie, Ayr, all jammed in there for 1, 2, 3. But there was a very exciting battle for the last playoff spot, for the last 2 playoff spots, right? I mean, the Brantford Titans were able to get the 7 seed and then upset the Air Centennials in the first round, right? Because they found a way to get the 7 seed. So I think that we can't dismiss the bottom of the Eastern Conference, because that is where we could get some really exciting storylines like we saw last year.
Yeah, and so this year there is no showcase weekend, which in my opinion is not a bad thing. I know Dylan did a lot of work on those showcase weekends. I do like the crossover games, even though we're going to Fort Erie this year, but that's another story.
So is Kamoka, Les. So is Kamoka. That's a long trip.
Yeah, it is a long trip.
St. Catharines.
Yeah, so we're all going all over. It'll be interesting. In the East, I still think we're going to have like I said, I think it'll come down to Fort Erie, Ayr, Cambridge, and St. Catharines at the top of that division as we get further along in the season. Okay. Since we don't talk about the East a lot, because we don't look at the East as much as I do, I look at the West mostly because that's where the Warriors are. And of course, being the broadcaster for the Warriors, doing the podcast for the Warriors, that's who I follow. So let's go right to the Western Conference. And the first team I want to start with in the Western Conference is the LaSalle Vipers. They have a lot of returning players, and they have the most drafted OHL players on their roster.
Wow.
That's
interesting.
So they got a very well put together team, but can they put it all together at the back end again? They fell apart halfway through the year last year. They made a couple trades that were we questioned them at the time. They really didn't work out in their favor, but they look like they could be a strong team this year, Dylan.
They do. And I think the LaSalle Vipers are always a strong team. I think no matter whether it was the old Western Conference or even as we saw last year, the new Western Conference, they can compete with everybody. And you touched on it there, Les. I mean, the big thing for them is just ensuring that the back end of the season is as strong as the front end of the season. They were so good to start the year, battling for that first place spot with St. Mary's and with Stratford and then eventually with Chatham. But they didn't quite have it at the end of the season. So I don't know, what the reason for that was, but they were still a playoff team and they were still a good team. And they're always a good team. They do a really good job out in LaSalle. I think John Nelson knows how to put together a roster. That he's the general manager for the LaSalle Vipers down there. I like Anthony Iaquinta, their head coach. I think he's a very good head coach. And I think that the biggest thing is, as we've touched on already, is they just need to make sure that they can finish the season strong, because we've already illustrated the talent that they have on that roster. I mean, you mentioned it, Les, the most OHL drafted players on any roster in the GOJHL. That's an accomplishment, right? That's not something you can look at and say, oh, that means nothing, right? It means something. And maybe it means that they're young. I don't know. I haven't gone in depth on LaSalle just yet, but they definitely will have talent on that roster. And it's just going to be about finding a consistent way of playing the game that allows you to finish strong in game 50, just as you started in game 1.
All right, Geoff, your thoughts on them?
Well, we've got LaSalle coming in on Friday, so we'll get a chance to see them right away. And I think as the season progresses, you're going to watch a lot of these teams shuffle some players around, some good moves. But down there, the whole area down there with Chatham and LaSalle, they've got such a big talent pool that to pull from. So it's going to be it's with LaSalle coming through, and if they can pull it off and really push some of the top teams, I think you're going to find it's going to be a struggle to try and maintain in the top 4 if you get LaSalle and Chatham start mixing in, and you just never know. But it's and again, you're talking travel down to LaSalle usually Wednesday nights. That's kind of tough on the boys. But the last couple seasons, I mean, I've only been here in St. Mary's for a little over 4 years, so being involved with the organization, and it's nice to watch all these teams come through year after year and constantly improving the hockey in the G. So.
Yeah, and let's so we'll move on from there. We're going to move up to 401. We're going to go to Chatham, the defending Sutherland Cup champions, raised their banner the other night. They have a solid squad. It changes over the summer right from the top. DeSantos has moved on to Leamington as an assistant coach in the BioSteel Academy, and Brandon Feasey has taken over as GM and head coach. But they've put a nice squad together, returning some players. That top line of Chadwick, Richter, and LaChance is still together. They could do damage in this league, those three guys.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Les, and I had the chance to watch that team in action on Sunday night. I was there for our GOJHL Spotlight game when they were taking on the St. Thomas Stars, and I wasn't sure what to expect, right? There was a lot of turnover in Chatham this year. They had a lot of new faces. I think it was only 8 or 9 guys returning from last year's Sutherland Cup championship squad. And that's the byproduct of being an older team, right? You have to be a little bit of an older team to win the Sutherland Cup generally, unless you have a lot of talent and you're very young. But I was really impressed with the way that team plays. And just hearing Brennan Feasy speak as head coach of the Chatham Maroons, you can understand why players love to play for him. He's a player's coach. Players like to go to battle for Brennan Feasy, and I think he's done a great job so far in putting that team together and in establishing their on ice identity. They're a fast team. They can score. They're fast. That's how they were last year under Rich Santos, and that's how they are this year under Brennan Feasy. I mean, that part hasn't changed. And you talked about Chadwick, LaChance, and Richter on that top line. I mean, they were unbelievable on Sunday night. I think Chadwick was the only one on that line who scored, but just some of the plays that they were making were high-level plays that no team is going to be able to defend. They have a strong second line, and one of the things I think Chatham does well year after year is the guys who play a role in their rookie seasons always seem to take the next step and always seem to improve. And the guys that I think of as examples of that are Ewan McChesney and Trevor Zanudo, who were both on that roster last year, who were in the bottom 6. Well, now they're in the top 6, right? And they're getting more ice time and they're making the most of it. Trevor Zanudo had 2 goals on Sunday night, had a goal on Saturday night in Strathroy. Like, he's off to a great start this season. McChesney's the one setting him up. And then they go out and they acquire Jackson Priddle, who had a great year in London and Sarnia last year. So Chatham's going to be another team to watch for this season. I think that they're going to be another good squad, as per usual.
Yeah, that was a big trade in the offseason, Priddle going to Chatham. I think Bertolin going back the other way might have been the back end of that deal. But Geoff, your thoughts on Chatham?
Yeah, I actually just before I went on here with you guys, I watched some of the 519 highlights about that, and to see just they know where each other is on the ice all the time. The quick pass, outlet passes right from their own zone out, and over 60 shots on St. Thomas. So that was pretty impressive. I mean, of course, with Feasy coming through AAA up through the Chatham area, he's just embraced with open arms by everybody around there. So it's going to be exciting to watch them. It's a little bit, salt on the wound with us losing to them in the finals last year. But to see that team not lose a step, come right in and just do what they know how to do, and that's play hockey pretty hard and pretty fast.
Yeah, I've been my thoughts on Chatham is it's still the House of Horrors. It's still a hostile environment. Geoff, I don't think I ever told you this, but last year in the playoffs, I'm over on one side of the rink. Dylan and Brandon Bax are over on the other side of the rink calling the game. And we're getting yelled at and screamed at, and they're just over there having a grand old time laughing. Brandon's just waving at me. He come over during the middle of the period. He said, kind of rough over here tonight. But Chatham does for me. They do look like they'll be solid, and they'll be up at the top of the division conference this year again. I think so as well. Move further up the 401. We say St. Thomas, probably the youngest team in the Western Conference, Dylan.
Yeah, St. Thomas is a really interesting team this year. 19 rookies on that roster. They got 25 players on it, so it's not as though they have 19 of 22. They do have 6 returning players or veterans in the league, but they have the most rookies in the GOJHL. We talked about how LaSalle has the most OHL drafted players. Well, St. Thomas has the most rookies out of any team. And I would guess, I haven't done the exact research. You have to go to Wayne Jenner at the GOJHL for this, but I believe it's by a pretty wide margin. I mean, 19 rookies is a lot. And that's another team that I got to see on Sunday, right? It was St. Thomas taking on Chatham. And St. Thomas is an interesting team. I mean, Dylan Durno played a great game between the pipes for them against the Maroons, facing over 60 shots, like you touched on, Geoff. He looked really solid. They're going to be skilled. They are going to be skilled. They have a really good top line. You got Wyatt Cameron out of Shattuck St. Mary's this year. I think he's a very talented player. You've got Miles Dunn, who was a good player at U16 last year with the Elgin Middlesex Canucks, and then you've got Chase Pettipies, who led all Alliance U18 players in scoring last year. That's a very potent top line, and that's not to mention London Knights third round pick Owen Legalick, who is on the second line for that roster, right? So I think they're a very young team, they're a very skilled team, and they're a very well coached team, right? Jason Williams is taking over in St. Thomas this year after being in Strathroy the last number of years. I think Jason's a very good coach, and I think that he'll be looking to implement some of his teachings with the Stars. And I think that's going to be an exciting team to watch. I think that they're going to make an impact, and they're going to be competing for a playoff spot after missing out last year.
Yeah, Geoff, I was going to touch on that. Jason Williams moving over from Strathroy to St. Thomas. Your thoughts on that? Because he is an excellent coach. He did a good job in Strathroy. I think he got the short end of the stick leaving there, but ending up in St. Thomas with the young squad. I think that's what they need is a coach like that.
No, that's true. And of course, he's, he brought over, Gray being the captain of St. Thomas right now too. So, I mean, he's a very well-spoken man, and he's got a voice. And I think with the team rallying around Jason's, the way he comes at the game, the way he's got his systems in place, it'll take a bit for these rookies to get on board. And I think it's going to be fantastic. We always play St. Thomas on Family Day. They're coming to us this year. So yeah, it's going to be, it's nice, especially, going down to Joe Thornton Arena and watching and being in that atmosphere. And I'm looking forward to watching St. Thomas grow. All
right. And we'll take a little trip now down the 402 to the Strathroy Rockets. Strathroy is a team for me. I don't know what to make of them yet. They are a mix of young and there's some old talent. They lost some key players. Gerber going to Elmira was a big loss for them. They play in the weirdest rink in the league, the smallest ice surface, the corners that are pretty much 90-degree corners, short glass. Dylan, your thoughts on Strathroy?
I'm going to give you one word on how Strathroy is going to play this year. Physical. They're going to be a physical team. And we saw that in their season opening game against Sarnia. We saw that in their home opener against Chatham on Saturday. That is going to be the identity of the Strathroy Rockets. It's not to say they're going to bully teams, but they might be bullying teams, right? They're very strong. They're very physical. They're going to finish every check. They've got a new head coach in there, and Matt Bowes, who was an assistant in Kamoka in 2024, and I had a chance to get to know Bowes a little bit. And one of the things that he always preaches, he's a very passionate guy, right? And he wants to make sure that everybody's playing with energy and an identity, and their identity is going to be their physicality this season. And that benefits them greatly in that rink. You touched on it, smallest ice surface in the league out in Strathroy, and there's not much room to hide on that ice, right? So if the Rockets are playing physical, they're going to get in your face. They're going to try to entice you into these battles, physical battles that they probably will win because they're a very strong team. They've got a lot of big bodies on that roster. If they can get you to play their game, I think it benefits Strathroy. But there are a lot of new faces on that team, right? And a lot of guys who are coming from the prep circuit too, right? Or different places that we're not accustomed to seeing in the GOJHL. So how does that translate in terms of point production? We'll see. But I think they have a captain who's very well experienced in Will Hull, who's been in the league quite a while, and he's a physical guy himself. And everybody falls in line after Will Hull and plays a physical brand of hockey.
Yeah, and Geoff, you were messaging me the night they were playing Sarnia, and you're going, can you believe this score? 9-1 over Sarnia. I don't know if that's a product of Strathroy or if it might be a product of Sarnia really not taking a step forward this year. I don't think.
It's hard to tell. I mean, you even look at the tournament that Strathroy is playing. I think one of the games was 12-10 and 13-1. So, I mean, they have scoring power, and it's not just scoring here and then 5 minutes later. No, they'll come at you in bunches. They're a hungry team, and yeah, they were pretty hungry against Sarnia. And that's a team that we'll have to keep an eye on because they could come up from behind and really do some shuffling as the season goes on with teams that are vying just to get in, say, even to the top 5. So you definitely can't.
That 12-10 game you're talking about in the Pelfreyman tournament.
Yeah,
that was 4-3 after 2 periods.
That was unreal.
It was a wild third. We walked in because Stratford was playing after. We walked in and I go, it's 4-3. And then all of a sudden, what the heck's going on here? There was no defense either side, but it was early.
I'm not going to sound very smart when I say this. Sorry, Lester, just to interject after you guys talked about a 12-10 game. But I'm really high on Strathroy's goaltending this year. I think they have a really good 3 goalies right now, and we'll see if that sticks all year. It rarely does, but I think Mason Costa is a very good goaltender. They've got Seth Ronan, who I believe was with the Allison Hornets last year. He put up great numbers. He's a lot of Knights draft pick. Costa, a draft pick of the Owen Sound Attack, and then they have Theron Morningstar as well. I think their goaltending is going to be good this year too.
All right, and we'll move down to the end of the 402, Sarnia. Sarnia is a team I don't know what to do with. I'm not sure. I don't know if they will contend for a playoff spot this year with changes they've really made. But it is still early in Sarnia, Dylan.
It is very early. They obviously had some tough results last week. Sarnia is a team in transition. They have a new owner, they have a new head coach, a new coaching staff, and I'm curious to see how they do. I honestly don't really know what to expect with Sarnia. They've got a lot of new faces as well. Some guys who have some experience. I think of Owen Hay, who played for the Kings a few years ago, went up north, played in the NOJHL for a couple of seasons, and then now back with Sarnia. They do have some experience on that roster. They lost Ryan Burrows, their goaltender, just before the season began. I don't really know what to make of Sarnia. I haven't looked into them all that much. I do know that they have a new owner and they're hoping for some optimism there. It's always a passionate fan base in Sarnia. And that no matter what the results are, they're going to come out and cheer on their team. I think Sarnia could surprise some people, but I haven't done a ton of research into the Legionnaires just yet.
Geoff?
It's we did play them on our home opener, right? And we beat them 7-1. But I don't think that, being so early in the season, it's really hard to look at a team and say, okay, yeah, they've struggled. Yeah, the night before they got beat 9-1. So, it's hard but you can see the players really striving to get the best out of their passing, their shooting. And it's tough not to take some of the penalties, right? Because you're trying to slow down the quicker teams. You're trying to establish yourself as being able to hold your own in your own zone. And I honestly don't like seeing games that go like that, but I can see that team changing during the year. And yes, you're right, Les. I think they're going to be a team that's going to surprise some people.
Yeah, I'm just, I'm saying this is a preview show. We're not the experts, but we do watch these games a lot. And, we'll probably come back mid-season. I'll try and get all 3 of us back mid-season. And we'll say where we're wrong. If we're wrong, we're wrong. I'll admit when I'm wrong. Working our way back, Dylan, we're going to stop in Komoka. Komoka this year, they look like a well-improved team. I think they might be the team that makes the turn this year and surprises people and gets into the playoffs.
Yeah. You know what? I'd love to hear you say that, Les, because it's been a tough couple of years in Komoka, that's for sure. A couple of years with not a ton of wins. I think the Kings have made great strides this offseason. I think both on and off the ice. They have a new coaching staff. They've reshaken their front office. They've got a new assistant general manager, Adam Simpson, new head coach, Johnny Warren. And Johnny actually played for the Kings organization back when they were at Lambton Shores, also played for the London Knights and has worked in the Knights organization. And that organization, of course, one that has had so much success over the years, and getting to learn and work directly with the Hunter brothers is definitely going to be something good for Johnny. And if you talk to Johnny, he's such a smart hockey mind. Even last week during our spotlight game, I was going to pull him and Morgan Payne into our spotlight room to do an interview post game after Payne scored the overtime winner. And just the conversations that he's having, always talking hockey. He talked about how Payne did a good job baiting a player and just the high level hockey stuff that Johnny is able to transmit to these players, I think is really, really going to be an asset for the Kings. And in terms of the players on the ice, they're another team that has a lot of young new faces. They're going to be young. They're going to be skilled. They have a lot of guys from the Elgin Middlesex Canucks U18 team from last year that won the Alliance Championship, that went to the National Championship. You think of a guy like Parker Graham, like Nash Jacobs. Those are 2 really good forwards. They've got a nice 16-year-old in Owen Miniotis as well. They just made a trade with St. Thomas to get Jacob Vandeven. I really think the Komoka Kings can take a big step this season. As somebody who has worked in that organization for so many years, it's always been a build with them, right? And I think that's something that their owner and general manager Rup Chandradat does well, is it's always a build, right? And they've taken steps behind the scenes off the ice this year, and they've upgraded their dressing room, they've repainted it, they're getting better stalls for the players and things like that. They're trying to take steps off the ice and on the ice. I'm curious to see how they do. They're going to be a young team. They just are, right? Them and St. Thomas, they're going to be two young teams, but they're two teams that are exciting, that are skilled, and that could challenge for a playoff spot.
Yeah, that's all you could ask for is an exciting team to watch. You don't want a young team that really doesn't show up every night. You want a young team that shows up and puts the work in every night.
Yes, absolutely.
Geoff, your thoughts on Komoka?
Yeah, I mean, I caught a bit of the game, the overtime game, and speed. That's what I noticed too. They really come out of the zone fast, and they can really catch you off guard with their up passes, and they're not afraid to shoot and go to the dirty areas around the net. So they're definitely, it's like night and day from last year. We've got that aggressiveness coming out, and like you say, Dylan, with the players from the UA team. That was an amazing team to watch last year. I got to watch a couple of those games. So, and it's nice to see. I mean, I'm from that area. I was, raised out in Appin. I watched a lot of the Stratford and Malbridge's games, but to have Komoka come from Lambton Shores go to Komoka, it's really exciting to be able to use such a beautiful rink they have there too. So it's nice.
Yeah. I got to say, it's one of my things. I will tune into a Komoka game pretty much to listen to Dylan Baker call the game. Because in my second year of doing play-by-play, I'm by far not the best play-by-play guy in this league. I have fun doing it, and I enjoy it. But I like listening to other guys call games, and there are some guys that some teams I won't listen to just because I don't get anything from them. But Dylan, when you call a game, I learn something new every time.
Thanks, Les. I appreciate that. I have a lot of fun. I've had a lot of fun calling games in Komoka over the past 6 years, and I mentioned it at the end of the broadcast on Saturday, so I'll mention it again here. Saturday was my last broadcast with the Kings as their full-time play-by-play broadcaster. There'll be more news on that in the coming days, but I'll take this opportunity to thank Roop and Komoka for giving me the opportunity in 2019 as a 13-year-old to get my start in play-by-play. It takes a lot of guts to take a chance on a 13-year-old broadcaster, and Roop did it, and I'm so grateful for that. And I've loved every single part of being in the Kings organization. I'm staying on behind the scenes, and I'll be back to call the occasional game in Komoka. But yeah, I did my last game as their full-time play-by-play voice on Saturday, and just a big thank you to Roop, Ray, and the whole gang at Komoka.
Yeah, and everybody listening, I've been trying to get Dylan to tell me what's going on. It is what it is. I'm going to miss going there and seeing you at the Komoka games. But I'm sure we'll see you around.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's move over to the London Nationals. Like I said, they've started well this season. New look, new ownership, new players. Picked up a heck of a goaltender right before the season started in Dante Bertolin, who, went to Sarnia last year and stood on his head for a team that tried to make a run, just couldn't pull up the horses. But the London Nationals are going to be a team. I think we're going to have to see which team is it. Is the Jekyll and Hyde that we saw last year where they could come out and play the game, or they turn it into a sideshow? So, Geoff, your thoughts on the Nationals?
No, again, I think watching some of the games already this year, much improved. Very gritty. I mean, you always say gritty when you see a player like McSorley on the ice or whatever. But I mean, as a complete unit, they come at you and they don't stop. And that's one thing you kind of need in this league is start to finish full 60 minutes, and that team does it. So yeah, I mean, with the new colors, new logo, maybe the change will embody more of a positive fan base. I mean, it's really tough when you're dealing with a big city like London and trying to get the fans out to watch. But, I wish more would go and watch because it is exciting hockey in London. And we try and get down as, for every game that St. Mary's plays to watch. And it's a great place to watch hockey. There's a lot of entertainment going on there. So it's good.
Yeah, Dylan, your thoughts on the Nationals?
The Nationals are always good, right? They are. I mean, that's just how they operate. It doesn't matter who owns the team, doesn't matter who's coaching the team. They always find a way to get good players in the door and ice a good team. And yes, they are physical. They do like to get into those scrums and those battles. It's part of their identity. I think Brandon Prust is a guy who commands respect out of his players. And I think that showed last year. I don't think a lot of people had them penciled in to sweep Listowel in the first round last season, and they did, right? And they came up short against Geoff, your Lincolns in the second round. But they were a good team last year. They're going to be a good team again this year. I'm curious to see their goaltending. You mentioned Bertolin less. Casimir Wexstrom's not there anymore, and Wexstrom, I think, certainly stole them some wins last season. So interested to see what that looks like. They also have 2 new assistant coaches, Sean Connors coming from Chatham, Ruben Ender coming from Kamoka. So two new faces to work alongside Brandon Prust, including a guy with head coaching experience in the league in Ender. I think it's going to be an interesting team this year. I think they're going to play the same way the London Nationals always play. They've got a bigger ice surface out in London. They can stretch the ice if they need to. They can really make you feel the extra feet that they have in terms of space on the ice because of their speed. And I think they're going to be physical again. That's how the London Nationals operate. And you can never count the London Nationals out of the playoffs because they're always a strong team. And they've been good so far this year. 2 overtime wins to start the year. Not bad for them.
All right. And my thought, we play them tomorrow night, so we'll see what they are all about. We'll see what the Warriors are all about. I think they'll be in the top of the league again this year, just because they battle so hard. And that comes right from the coach on down. Brandon Prust really never took a game off when he was in the NHL. So he probably passes that on to his players. He doesn't want to take a game off. Matthew Blake for the Warriors went to Prust training camp this summer. And he said they were on the ice 3 times a week and he didn't stop. So we'll have to see what happens there. We're going to skip St. Mary's and Stratford and we'll move on down. Let's go to Waterloo first. Waterloo's a team. I'm not sure what to make of just because of all the moves out of Waterloo. I think they might have the horses to get them there, but it's going to be tough just because of they're in the Western Conference with so many good teams, Dylan.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what we get from Waterloo as well. I mean, I got the chance to see them in Kamoka on Saturday, and I thought that they were a good team, and I didn't know what to expect from the Siskins, but they really impressed me in that game. They were better than I expected them to be. I think they did a good job pushing the pace against Kamoka. I thought that oftentimes they had stretches of that play where they really controlled things. I thought their goaltender, Mason Corville, who is 16 years old, I thought he was very good, in particular for a 16-year-old goaltender. I'm curious to see that's another team that has 3 goalies on the roster, right? You've got Corville, you've got Brock Grine, and you've got Zach Urban. So which 2 make it out of the 3, or do they keep 3 all year? I would doubt it, but we'll see what comes of the Siskins this year. I think that there is a little bit of extra motivation for them just being the Waterloo Siskins again. I know that's something that the alumni and the coaching staff are very passionate about. It is representing the city of Waterloo. So I'm curious to see what they're like. I think they have a very physical back end. They were finishing a lot of checks against the Kings on Saturday. They play the game in a physical manner. They are not afraid to get in front of shots. I think the Siskins are always a good team, and I think that they're going to be, right in the mix again this year.
Yeah, I don't know. Anybody that listened to our games when we were playing Waterloo, they were never the KW Siskins when I called the game because it was just Waterloo. It's just so natural for it to come out as Waterloo. Geoff, your thoughts on Waterloo, because they gave you guys a big run last year in the playoffs.
Yeah,
near the end of that playoff series.
Yeah, that's true. They seem to be a team that builds momentum right up to the playoffs, and they took us right to the brink last year. It's all we could do to be able to come out with a win. So it's I'm looking forward to seeing how they grow and progress. Again, I did watch some of the game against Kamoka, and just like you say with what Dylan said, it's fast paced. They push it. They go to the dirty areas and the blocking the shots. They did a lot of shot blocks, so they're not afraid to get in the way. I think that's what you need out of a team.
Yeah. We've talked a bit about Elmira already, but we'll talk about them again. As I said, Brendan Gerber is now back in Elmira after spending last season with Strathroy. I think Brendan Gerber might have an outstanding year playing in Elmira with some of those players he's got around them there, Dylan.
Yes, absolutely. I think that it's going to be a really exciting team this year out there. And I think that, they've brought in a lot of pieces. We talked about how they've adapted to the new landscape, and I think that they're going to be a really talented squad to watch. They were fun to watch offensively last year, and I think that's going to be the case once again this season. I think that they were a little bit lower than they maybe anticipated in the standings last year, but I think that this year we'll see a return to form for that team, and I think that they're going to be very strong here in 2025, 2026.
Yeah, and they've just brought in a 20-year-old goaltender to help out with Strauss, who's back with the Kings. So we'll see where that Liam, I forget his last name.
Liam Reed, former Stratford Rocket,
yes,
I might add.
Right. Yeah, Liam Reed. So we'll see what happens there. Geoff, they got some former St. Mary's players in Elmira, as well as kids that are from the Kitchener-Waterloo area have decided to go play closer to home.
Yeah, with Cornfield up there. I think that's in the trade we did, and we got Jack Clark. It's pretty impressive to watch how you can get some of these players that play a high level at other teams, and they just seem to gel. They know where to be on the ice, and it's magic to watch. And again, that team is quite heavy on the offense this year. So just like last year, I think it's going to be exciting to watch. And again, another team that could really do some mix up with the standings as the season goes on. So again, it could be a couple points here and there that could, when it comes to playoffs, could jostle between third, fourth, fifth. You just never know.
All right, let's move over to North Perth, a rivalry of this Perth County rivalry that we have going. The three teams left in the West to talk about, all from the same county. Now, last year, a great showing by Perth County, as all three teams were in the playoffs. Listowel didn't fare so well late. Listowel had a lot of changeover this past season, as they did after their championship season the year before. They had some changeover. They've come in with 12 rookies, Dylan, this year.
Yeah, they have. And I think that the Listowel Cyclones are a team you can never overlook, right? This team was Sutherland Cup champion just 2 seasons ago, but you mentioned that there's a lot of changeover. There are still a lot of really good pieces in Listowel, a lot of guys who have experience, a lot of guys who can score, who can lead teams. So, I'm very curious to see what the Cyclones are like this season. I'm not really too sure what to expect. Obviously, a couple of tough results for them against the Elmira Sugar Kings on opening weekend. I thought Listowel last year, I thought they stuck to their system so well. And I called a lot of Listowel games when they're playing Kamoka, obviously, and it felt like one of the things they did really well against the Kings, and this is a team that didn't score 100 goals last year in Kamoka, so the offense was not a strong point for the Kings last year, but I thought that Listowel suppressed offense really well. And one of the things that they weren't able to do in their playoff series against the Nationals was suppress that offense in the same way. So I'm curious to see if if they get back to that identity, or if maybe they switch things up with a new roster. One of those rookies I think is really good is Lennon Cabral, an Erie Otters prospect. I think he's going to be a star for them. And I'm curious to see what the Cyclones are able to do this year. I don't really know what my expectations are for the Sykes, but you can never count those guys out.
Yeah, in the back end, like they brought back Middleton, Vader, Renault. So they're good on the back end, and Ethan Kwatchit in net. You can't go wrong there. A veteran goaltender who's played in other centers, but he really came in and settled things down in Listowel last season with Arts, and they switched back and forth. Geoff, what do you think about Listowel?
Again, that's a team that, I haven't got a chance to. I watched a couple of highlights from some of the Elmira games, but again, they buy into the system. They come at you hard. They always jump on your turnovers. You always got to be aware. You never want to turn over a puck on Listowel, because they will go down and they will get 2, 3, 4 shots on net before they put it in. So I don't think you can really dictate how the team is coming off of the 2 losses against Elmira. But I mean, again, it's like every team this year, 2 games under your belt, everyone's bound to, surround everybody, get the systems in place. And we'll come back mid-season and talk about it again.
All right, let's move over down Highway 7 into St. Mary's. St. Mary's, you lost a few players from your team last year that was so good all season long. Little trouble with Chatham, You lost to Chatham in 7 games, but Chatham went on to win the Southern Cup. We lost to Chatham in 7 games. They went on to win the Southern Cup. You got beat by the best is what it was. But you
That's
guys
true.
have a solid team again this year, Geoff, and you guys are going to compete at the top of this conference again.
Yeah, I think we have a really good shot. I mean, we haven't skipped a beat. We've added quite a few new players, but I think we're a little more faster on the back end, like coming out of our own zone and finding the size. Again, we've got some players that can really move the puck around fast. One pass out of our zone and down into onto a stick, and next thing you know, you've got it's in the back of your net. And that comes back to our coaching staff, right? We've got such a good coaching staff. Geoff is co-GM, and he's helping build the team with Pat. And year after year, I mean, again, I've only been in St. Mary's for 4 years. And I mean, when I come in, the first game I saw was, you got Lalama and George in net. I mean, look where George is now. So to see the team, I never got to see the struggling years before, to see them continue on that pace and not miss a beat going to, the finals and whatnot in the last 3 years. And it's exciting hockey here. And I think if they stay with Geoff's system that he's got in place, we're going to be, in the top again this year. And again, I mean, last year playoffs, it was 7 games London, 7 games Chatham. It was, you just don't know with the talent that some of these other teams have. But I think we're going to be another strong contender this year, and we've got great goaltending with St. Mary's Bar, and we've got Calhoun from Essex 73s last year, who really stood on his head with that team last year. So yeah, we're looking good again.
Yeah, Dylan, St. Mary's. I think there's a couple players on St. Mary's you really have to watch. Jack Clark, I think he might light this league up. Lincoln Moore, you can never.
Oh yeah,
just give him the puck.
He's
such a big fella that can skate and he can shoot. Dylan, your thoughts on St. Mary's?
I mean, St. Mary's Lincolns are a perennial contender. I have so much respect for Pat Powers and for Geoff Bradley and what they do, whether it was in London back pre-pandemic or whether it's been in St. Mary's since. I think that they are two of the better hockey minds around the area. And I think that they do such a good job in team building. Such a good job at identifying players that fit exactly their needs. And, they as we mentioned, they lost in the West Final last year to Chatham, the eventual champions. That was a fantastic series, a really great series. And yeah, they lost a lot of pieces this year. Obviously, you lose your 2 big guns and your captain and assistant captain, Jaden Lee Lucas Spagnolo, leaving the team. And that hurts, but they still have so much talent on this roster. I mean, you look at the GOJHL stats page right now, you've got 3 2005 born players at the top of the list, and Lincoln Moore, Chase McQueen Spence, and Owen Bortman right near the top of the league in scoring with 7, 7, and 6 points each in 2 games last week. I mean,
that's
this is
a wild top line.
It is. This is a team that can score at will. They can defend very well, and they seem to always find good goaltending. I think they're very good at identifying good goaltenders. So yeah, I mean, St. Mary's, it's going to be more St. Mary's. I mean, they're always good, and again this year, it's going to be the case.
Yeah, and I've been told by a lot of people, watch Von Bar. This kid is good, and he's only going to get better as the season goes on. Geoff, getting Calhoun out of the Essex, that was a big pickup for you guys. Not sure, because
that is true.
When he came in, you weren't sure what Booth Hoshko was doing at the time, and losing both your star goaltenders, I think you really plugged a hole with Calhoun.
Yes, I think so too. I mean, and again with what we have for coaching staff and having that ability to put any goaltender in net on any given night is really helped, where we don't have to rely on on one goaltender to carry us, 10, 15 games. We can throw either one in net, and yeah, I'm excited. We haven't seen him in net yet. I mean, Calhoun has played both games, so yeah, it'll be exciting to watch him play. And again, like Dylan said, we seem to always find the players that fit the needs that to generate all this extra talent and power on the ice. And buying in the systems and with the good goaltending we have, we should be strong again.
Yeah, and I plan to get superfan Rhett Chessel on in a couple weeks and get his theory on that, because Rhett's always good for a soundbite here and there. It's not his fault. He's a Dodgers fan, but that's okay. We'll let Red away with that one. We plan to get him on and hear his thoughts. All right, let's move over to Stratford, where we are coming in, and there's a lot of excitement in Stratford this year. It's understandable. I wasn't really sold on the Pelfreyman tournament being a part of it so early in the preseason, but the way that tournament turned out for Stratford, it was like a big team building exercise for that, getting these kids used to each other. We brought in a new goaltender in Davis, former Caboka King. Gage Hurst is back up there. The biggest thing is Jonas Schmidt looks comfortable in Stratford this year. And he led the preseason in scoring. I think Jonas could have a breakout year this year, just because he feels like his game's all there now. Geoff, your thoughts on Stratford? I know you're a Lincoln's fan, but it's okay.
Well,
can't hear you. Oh, there you go.
No, it's again, it's being able to, you're 17 minutes down the road from St. Mary's, so it's to see a team that comes back as strong as they were last year. Yeah, it's exciting to watch, and local talent. I mean, lots of players on these teams from the Lakers and stuff like that. It's nice, but just to watch the two preseason games, the way your team moves the puck around, the way they find each other, and it's like the puck's on a string for some of these guys. They can kick in an extra gear. If you think you're going to lay a body on them, they'll just find that extra gear, go by you, and it should be very exciting in Stratford this year. Very exciting. You've got top-notch goaltending back there as well, for sure.
Dylan Nickpar was able to add a few pieces in this past summer, some rookies and that, but it's going to be interesting to see them piece it together because there is so much talent from top to bottom. Quinn Kiffer coming back, Slattery, Dax Vader after the arm problem he had last year getting cut. Doesn't look like he's missed a beat. Your thoughts on Stratford, sir?
Stratford's another one of those teams, I think, and we talked about it earlier, where the guys who are role players, this is what we said about Chatham, the guys who are role players, and I think the same can be applied to Stratford and St. Mary's. The role players take a step, right? And I think guys who had smaller roles last year are ready to take that next step. I think of a guy like Dominic Marshall, who may be ready to take that next step. Jack McGurn had a great year last year. I think we could see even more out of him this season. And this team, yes, there are some really good rookies that have been brought in. I think Max Wildfong is a really good player. I'm really high on McQuinn Haylock as well. I think those are two very good adds for the Warriors. But the bus for this team will be driven by the veterans. And, if it's anything like what we saw in the Pelfreyman tournament and in the preseason, I mean, you mentioned it last, Jonas Schmidt looks fantastic. He seems really ready to have a big year in his 20-year-old season for the Warriors. So I'm curious to see what he's able to bring offensively and how he plays. I think this is a really good team, guys. I really do. I think they're a very strong roster. Stratford obviously had a good year last year. I think we could see them have an even better year this year. And it's strange to not have any regular season data to base that on. Everybody in the league has played except for Stratford. Yeah. But I think the Warriors are going to be a good team again this year. They always are, but with the amount of veterans that they have coming back and the amount of guys that look like they have taken steps to the next level, I think Stratford's going to be a good team.
Yeah, because if you look at it, we had 14 rookies last year. This year we're coming out with 8. A lot more talent. You talked about Max Wildfong. I think he's going to take a step. I think he'll go up and down in the middle of that lineup and pretty much play anywhere. Somebody asked me the other day what your top line is. I said, I think we got a 1A, 1B, 1C. And then the fourth line, it's, you put Dominic Marshall, McGurn, and Grady Murphy out there, and they're going to punish the teams. They're not going to give them any space. Grady Murphy is a player you just tell him to go north and south, east and west. No X's and O's, just tell him to go because this kid will give 100% all the time and he won't stop. And look how well we did how well the Warriors did last year with their goals against, and we've returned a lot of that defense. Joe Curtin looks to have a breakout year. I know he wants to get his offensive numbers up. He's done it so far in the preseason. I've joked with him that pretty mildly on that. But there's size back there. Matthew Blake looked great in the preseason. Will Coward, him and Drew Hodge, cousins. I think Will Coward might be the dark horse on that back end this year.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Will Coward's a really good player. We saw a glimpse of him in St. Mary's last year near the end of the season as a call-up. He got some playoff games for the Lincolns, and I thought he looked good. So, yeah, I'm curious to see what Will Coward can do on the back end for Stratford here this year, too.
All right, guys, that's pretty much does it for the West. I'm not going to ask you to tell me who you think is going to win, because it's just way too early. Stratford hasn't played a game. We've been talking about that. We got 2 games coming up. We'll still be behind. We're going to pay for this later down the road, I think. There's a weekend there where we have a couple 3-game weekends. So that's all because of the OHL coming to town last Friday night, which was very well attended. There was a little bit of a delay due to medical staff not being at the arena, but that's here nor there. They had a really good crowd, which was nice to see. I'm looking the game. I've circled them already on my calendar. Stratford and St. Mary's. Stratford and St. Mary's. Stratford and St. Mary's. It's playoff hockey anytime these 2 teams meet. And throw Listowel in there, family day game. Back up in Listowel. It's always a good action there. And the spotlight game, one of our spotlight games this year is Listowel. We're in 3 of them again this year. 2 with Listowel, I think 1 with St. Mary's. So we'll be seeing a lot of 519 again, as we always do on the Friday night. It's always good to see Darren down there. Brandon backs me and Brandon. When Dylan's not there, we have I get Brandon up on the broadcast, and he's such a knowledgeable man about hockey. And we always say, we have a question, we always go, just ask Dylan, because he's probably got a spreadsheet on
it. Yeah. Well, for the record, I wanted to pass along that Darren, Brandon, and the 519 team all say hello. By the way, I told them I was coming on the show. They said, make sure you tell Les and the gang that we say hi. So they say hello, and they always love being at the Almond. Yeah,
I'm gonna try and get Darren on it sometime. Things just haven't worked out. It's been kind of a weird year. Like I said, Stratford was hurry up and wait. A little bit of a break, nothing going on. You can't really have a podcast when you have nothing to talk about. But it's been really good doing this, guys. Before you leave, I just want to thank you both for doing this, taking time out of your busy schedules. Geoff, not so much, because I see him daily at work.
That's true.
So I know his night schedule is like mine, but busy schedule. Dylan, trying to nail you down sometimes is it's like
sorry,
the fair. It's like the fair, throwing the dart at the balloon.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. It's busy right now with school and with hockey being back, and it's a real busy time. My schedule this year, just a little peek behind the curtain for me. My schedule with school this year, just brutal. So trying to find a time to come on was not easy, but I appreciate you accommodating me with a bit of a later conversation. I think the 3 of us would have liked, but I always have fun coming on. So thank you again for having me.
Yeah, this setup works really good because I don't have to get people to come down to a studio to do it. I can just get you to phone in. You can either phone in or you can come on your computer. I just want to let everybody know, Stratford Warriors podcast report. We have some swag. This year we're doing a green t-shirt for mental health awareness. All proceeds from the sale of these t-shirts, you can get them at the booth, the merch booth, or get a hold of me and you can get them $30 a t-shirt. All proceeds will be donated to a mental health initiative. Here's a little sneak peek of them right there. They got the Stratford, the podcast crest on the front. On the arm, it's going to say it's okay not to be okay. I just wanted to get that in so everybody could see that. And like I said, all proceeds from the sale of these t-shirts will go to a mental health charity or initiative. Some exciting news coming up. I am in talks with Tyler Smith of the Humboldt Broncos to join me at some point.
Wow.
This year. He's a phenomenal man to talk to, and I've talked to him once and emailed him a couple times. I hope we can work it out because his story it's beyond belief, and it's just amazing. What this gentleman's been through, what he's accomplished in his life, what he's been able to do for others, starting his own clothing line. You're not alone. It's okay not to be okay. Like I said, guys, thanks for doing this. We'll touch base maybe halfway through the season if we can nail everybody's time slot down. If we have to come on at midnight, I'm okay with that.
Let's take the next day off.
Just to accommodate Dylan.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
I like I said, Dylan, I think you're great in this sport. You've done a great job in Kamoka. Sorry to see you. I'm not going to be able to see you there all the time now when we go to Kamoka. That's been a highlight. The first time I went there, the guy said, "Oh, we have a prodigy doing the play-by-play, Dylan Baker."
Oh, wow. Okay,
who
said
I
that?
found him, and he helped me. He helped me get connected and everything and all that.
That's not easy in Kamoka.
No, it's not. But we figured out a way and we got around it. So it worked. And then I was supposed to have him on one night in Kamoka, and you had internet problem, and I'm sitting there going, well, my internet works fine. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
It should be a wild season. 50-game grind, I think, again this year, gentlemen. Are you expecting anything? Is it going to be better than last year? Or what do you think?
Geoff? I think the West is going to be a lot tighter, even than last year. I know there was a battle for that last playoff spot, but I think it's going to even be more tight. I think you're going to see a lot of a couple of points between maybe even the top 6 teams. So, yeah, I mean, every win's very important. Sometimes an overtime loss can kill you this year. So, yeah, I think it's going to be very tight. Very tight this year.
3-point games this year, I think, are going to be more important than anything near the end of it. Dylan, your thoughts on the Wild Wild West?
I agree with Geoff. I mean, just to piggyback off of what both of you said, we've seen a lot of 3-point games already, a lot of overtime games in the GOJHL in the first week of the season. And I think I agree with what Geoff's saying. I think it's going to be a really tight conference this year. None of the three of us keep an overly close eye on the East because we've all been closely involved with Western Conference teams. So just speaking to the West, I think the West is going to be really close. And I think that there is going to be, like Geoff said, a real fight for every position in the standings, right? I think it's going to be a battle for first. It'll be a battle for second. It'll be a battle for third, and keep going down the line until you reach 8th, right? In that last playoff spot. I think it's going to be a grind of a year, and I'm so excited to watch it.
All right, guys. Again, I want to thank you for doing this. This will be the end of the first podcast of the regular season. We're going to try and do this weekly. Sometimes it might work out and other times it might. If Dylan Baker's our guest, it might not work out, but I can't help but tease you. I need to get Brandon Bax on this show because there is a gentleman that watches so much hockey. He can fills our intermissions with just his hockey knowledge, talking about everything. He's just, last year was great. Brandon, we'll get you on the show. Darren, I hope to get you on the show and many other guests this year. Gentlemen, I want to thank you for joining me. I'm going to play the out video, and thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thanks a lot, Les.
Yep.